Today's topic is the elements of consent as it relates to law enforcement purposes. Why consent is important, and some thoughts on officers using consent to search individuals in areas where officers believe criminal activity may have occurred. I'm Steve Serbalik, and I'm a panel attorney with ASCOPS in Arizona. Remember, this video isn't legal advice, so if you have specific questions about your circumstance, ask for help. So with that said, first, before I get into the elements of consent for a search, it's worth briefly recapping why consent matters. The Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. When we talk about the Fourth Amendment, the conversation often goes to the elements of a search warrant. But search warrants aren't the only valid legal authorization for a search. In fact, consent searches are certainly more common than searches involving a formal warrant or even an arrest. In order to make a search lawful through consent, the person whose property will be searched must waive his or her Fourth Amendment rights voluntarily. In order for the waiver to be voluntary, the person providing the waiver must have the ability to refuse consent. Even though the person providing consent for a search has the legal ability to refuse consent, officers do not need to tell the subject that they have the right to refuse consent. Although the prosecution must prove that the consent search was entirely voluntary and was not coerced. Whether consent was given freely or as a result of coercion is based upon an analysis of the totality of the circumstances. Additionally, consent can only be given by someone who has the authority over an area for a search to be valid. For example, if a house guest or a trespasser gives consent for a search of a building, they likely don't have authority. But on the other hand, hotel management often can give consent for the search of the hotel room. Co-tenants present specific challenges regarding consent. For example, if two roommates share an apartment and both are present during a police contact, if one roommate consents to a search but the other doesn't, generally speaking, officers can't search the common areas of the apartment based upon consent. On the other hand, if only one roommate is present, again, generally speaking, because that person has common authority over the apartment, officers can search the shared areas based upon consent. Also, know that because it's voluntary, consent is also revocable. This means that a person giving consent for a search can change their mind and take consent back anytime during the search. But know that the withdrawal or revocation of consent needs to be clearly made. A suspect who simply asks how long a search will take or it gets impatient is not enough to revoke consent. Finally, consent isn't voluntary if the officer bullies the suspect into allowing the search. For example, if an officer says, "I'm the police and I can search this area if I want to," and the suspect simply gives way and allows the search, that doesn't equal voluntary consent, and the search is likely illegal. If you're going to make a consent search, when possible, I'd recommend getting the consent to search recorded somehow, either in writing, on body camera, or on audio recording. This is because the prosecutors would have the burden of proving in court that the consent was voluntarily made and without coercion, so it's helpful to have this type of evidence available. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve Serbalik. Stay safe out there. If you're interested in watching another relevant video, click up here. And if you would like to subscribe for this channel, click down here. And for notifications, don't forget to hit that bell button so you're made aware of when new videos are uploaded. Videos are posted every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Arizona time.